The kind of world that most of us would want to live in, one in which there is a deep respect for other human beings because they are created by a loving God. However that creation came about, you could have your beliefs, we can have our beliefs, and both can be based on on evidence, even the same evidence. But I think fundamentally, where our differences come down to is whether there was a creator or whether there was not a creator.
I liked one phrase you used there. You talked about the sort of society in which we wish to live. And I'll tell you quite freely that a society based upon Darwinian principles is exactly the sort of society I do not wish to live in. Mm-hmm. It would be a terrible society. It would be a sort of George Bush kind of society, if I can put it like that, or Margaret Thatcher kind of society. I do not wish to live in a Darwinian world. It's a very unpleasant world. It's a thoroughly unpleasant world, not the kind of world we wish to live in. So let us construct the kind of society in which we wish to live, which will be a non-Darwinian society. It will be the sort of society which departs from Darwinian principles. A society that was based on Darwinian principles would be a ruthless, free market economy in which the rich trample the poor, in which it would be the sort of opposite of a liberal socialist society, in fact. Yes. I'm against Darwin where politics is concerned.
You actually helped to make my case quite well, and that is that a philosophy that is drawn out of Darwinism would be extremely brutal, and in fact has been. That has been the experience.
I've just said that. I've agreed with that.
And
yes.
That's why the societies that have been built on a viewpoint that God created each one of us, however he did it, that's part of the science of unlocking, of discovering how that was done.
Do you think that children should be taught critical thinking at school?
In fact, that is what we argue for, is that children to be taught evidence, so that they can decide for themselves, so they can figure out for themselves what is truth. And the position we've taken is teach the controversy, teach all the information, not just selected information that promotes one viewpoint, which most of the times that's evolution. But let's teach all the information so that the school children can learn how to think for themselves and come to their own conclusions.
Nobody could possibly object to teaching children to think for themselves.
I wish that were the case, that people would not object to teaching all the information or teaching children in a manner so they can think for themselves. But sadly, there's been a very heavy-handed effort in the United States to clamp down, not allow any teaching that is contrary to evolution, even to the point of court orders.
When you say teach the controversy, it would be nice. I mean, of course, scientists teach controversies all the time. There's a lot of controversy in science. There's evidence on one side, there's evidence on the other side. There are controversies between people who think that natural selection is all important in driving evolution. And there are people who think that natural selection is only part of it and that there are other things that drive evolution. There are controversies about whether evolution goes smoothly and continuously, or whether it goes in jumps, whether there are sort of long periods where not much evolution happens, and then a rather sudden burst of evolution. There was no evidence of intermediates in evolution. There are plenty of ways in which God could be involved in creation of the universe, even creation of life. Maybe he did it via evolution, though. Could be the working out of God's purpose.
If we have gone from slime to human beings, there should be an overwhelming amount of evidence, not these isolated cases that could be interpreted differently. And see, one problem that evolutionists have is that in the past, when there's been great acclaim of a discovery to show from one species to another, it's been proven to be fraudulent. So evolutionists have a problem in their own history. The fact that there have been so many cases of fraud or misinterpretation of information that now we have a problem believing what you say.
There was the Piltdown Man in the 1920s.
Science is taking a theory and challenging it to see if it can stand up.
That's right.
And so while people may not like when the evidence doesn't stand up to further testing, but that's what science is about.
Yes, well, that is what science is about. Since Darwin's time, plenty of things that Darwin thought have now been shown to be wrong. I mean, Darwin was completely wrong about genetics, for example. And so there are modern controversies in Darwinism. We have a very large amount of evidence that God set up the laws of physics, the laws of the universe, and he did it in such a cunning way. And don't believe what you've been told, that there is no evidence. There is a massive amount of evidence. God did it. Isn't that a rather grand and noble vision of God?
It is, and in fact, we believe that as well. We believe that science is unlocking the mysteries of the laws put in place by God, that God created this earth with certain laws like the law of gravity to allow it to function, and that science is actually is discovering and unlocking the secrets of the laws that God put in place.
I have accepted that if we were to base our societies on Darwinian principles, they would be brutal, harsh, and unpleasant. I have told you that I want not to live in a Darwinian society. I believe probably biblical creation.
O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science, falsely so called, which some professing have heard concerning the faith.
Don't respect me, I don't want respect.